The crystal chandelier cast fractured light across the mahogany table as Kang Min-jun adjusted his silk tie one final time. At 28, he commanded respect in every boardroom from Gangnam to Silicon Valley, his tech empire built from nothing but ambition and sleepless nights. Yet today, facing his father across the polished surface of their Hanam-dong penthouse, he felt like a child again. "The Park family has agreed," his father said, sliding a leather portfolio across the table. "Their daughter, Park So-young, will marry you within the month." Min-jun's jaw tightened. "The Parks destroyed our family 15 years ago, father. They stole our patents, ruined our reputation, and drove us to near bankruptcy. Now you want me to marry their daughter?" His father's weathered hands remained steady as he poured traditional tea. "This marriage will unite our companies. Park Industries controls the semiconductor market we need. Your pride is a luxury we cannot afford." "My pride?" Min-jun's voice rose. "They killed my mother, father. The stress of losing everything, of watching you drink yourself into despair while Park Dong-wook celebrated our downfall, it killed her. And now we have the chance to reclaim everything." His father's voice was steel wrapped in silk. "So-young is their only heir. Marry her, and in time, everything they stole becomes yours." Min-jun stared out at the Han River, its waters dark under the Seoul sky. Revenge had been his driving force for years, but he'd imagined it would come through business victories, not through the altar. Chapter 2: First Encounter. The traditional tea ceremony was held at the Park family's ancestral home in Bukshan-Hanok village, where ancient wooden structures stood defiant against the city's glass towers. Min-jun arrived in his black Genesis sedan, his three-piece suit a modern contrast to the traditional setting. She was nothing like he'd expected. Park So-young sat in perfect hanbok posture, her ivory silk dress embroidered with pink cherry blossoms, but her eyes held a storm. When their gazes met, he saw not the pampered princess he'd imagined, but a woman trapped in the same golden cage. "So you're the famous Kang Min-jun," she said during a brief moment when their parents were distracted by business talk. Her voice was honey over broken glass. "The man who thinks he can buy back his family's honor with my hand in marriage. And you're the Park princess who thinks she's too good to pay for her father's sins," he replied, matching her cold tone. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "At least we understand each other. This marriage is a business transaction. Nothing more." "Nothing more," he agreed, though something in her defiant posture reminded him of someone fighting drowning waters. As the ceremony concluded with their family's satisfied smiles, either noticed how their hands lingered a moment too long when exchanging formal bows. Chapter 3: The Wedding. The wedding was a spectacle worthy of Korea's business elite. Hotel Shila's grand ballroom glittered with 500 guests, each invitation a carefully calculated political move. Min-jun stood at the altar in his custom tuxedo, watching So-young walk down the aisle like a beautiful sacrifice. Her wedding dress was a masterpiece of French lace and Korean elegance, but her smile was painted on. When she reached his side, she whispered, "Let's make this convincing." The ceremony proceeded flawlessly until the moment for their vows. Instead of the pre-written words their families had prepared, So-young surprised everyone. "I promise to be your wife in name," she said, her voice carrying across the silent ballroom, "and to honor this arrangement our families have made. But I also promise to never lose myself in this contract." Min-jun felt something shift in his chest. Looking into her eyes, he abandoned his prepared speech. "I promise to respect you as my equal, to never force what isn't freely given, and to remember that we are both prisoners who might yet find a way to freedom." The guests murmured at the unconventional vows, but their father's satisfied expressions never wavered. Business was business. Chapter 4: Living Arrangements. Their new home was a penthouse in Cheongdam-dong, a showpiece of modern Korean luxury with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. They established rules on their first night. "Separate bedrooms," So-young stated, standing in the marble foyer with her suitcases. "Agreed." "Public appearances only when necessary for business," Min-jun replied. "No interference in each other's personal lives." "Fine." but no scandals that could damage either company. They shook hands like business partners, but as days turned to weeks, the careful distance became harder to maintain. So-young worked as a curator at the Seoul Museum of Art, often staying late to avoid coming home. Min-jun buried himself in expanding his AI software company, but found himself wondering about the woman who ate breakfast in silence across from him each morning. The first crack in their facade came during a thunderstorm. Min-jun returned from a late meeting to find So-young sitting in the dark living room, staring out at the lightning-split sky. "Afraid of storms?" he asked gently. "No," she said, but her hands were shaking. "I was 7 when my mother left during a storm like this. She said she couldn't bear being married to my father anymore, that the business world was destroying our family. I never saw her again." Min-jun found himself sitting beside her. "My mother used to make hotyak during storms. She said the thunder was just the sky working hard to bring beautiful weather." "Did she leave too?" So-young's voice was barely a whisper. "She died when I was 15. Heart attack brought on by stress. The stress of losing everything to your father." So-young turned to him, tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry. I didn't know it was that severe. Your father didn't tell you?" "My father tells me nothing about business. I only learned about the arranged marriage 2 weeks before our wedding." Something cold in Min-jun's chest began to thaw. "You didn't choose this either." "I've never been allowed to choose anything," she said, and for the first time, her perfect composure cracked completely. Chapter 5: Unexpected Discovery. The revelation came during a late night at Min-jun's office. So-young arrived with takeout, claiming she was bored at home, though she'd been doing this more often lately. "You don't have to take care of me," Min-jun said, but he was grateful for the company and the jjigae she'd brought. "I'm not taking care of you. I'm hungry too," she replied, but she made sure he ate the soup while it was still warm. As they shared the meal, Min-jun's phone buzzed with an encrypted message from his private investigator. Without thinking, he opened it in front of So-young. The blood drained from her face as she read the screen. "Park Dong-wook didn't steal the Kong patents. Evidence suggests internal sabotage by Kong Industries CFO Lee Jae-sung. Park Industries purchased the patents legally after Lee sold them to cover gambling debts. This is impossible," Min-jun breathed. So-young stood abruptly, pacing to the window. "Uncle Jae-sung was my father's business partner. He's been like family to us for 20 years. He was my father's closest friend," Min-jun said, his world tilting. "If this is true, then our families have been enemies for nothing," So-young finished. They stared at each other across the office, 15 years of hatred crumbling between them. "There's more," So-young said quietly. "My father didn't know about your mother's death. When I told him last week, he cried. He said he never wanted anyone to get hurt." Min-jun felt his carefully constructed worldview collapsing. "All this time I thought. We both thought wrong," So-young said, returning to sit beside him. "The question is, what do we do now?" Chapter 6: The Investigation. Working together for the first time, Min-jun and So-young began unraveling 20 years of deception. Lee Jae-sung had played both families against each other, profiting from their mutual destruction while maintaining his position of trust. Late nights in Min-jun's office became treasure hunts through financial records. So-young's art background made her surprisingly good at spotting patterns and discrepancies. "Look at this," she said one evening, pointing to a series of transactions. "Uncle Jae-sung has been embezzling from both companies for years. The patent sale was just the beginning." Min-jun leaned over her shoulder to read the screen, catching the scent of her jasmine perfume. "He's been feeding information to competitors, manipulating stock prices. He destroyed both our families for money," So-young said, her anger finally surfacing. "And let us hate each other while he got rich," Min-jun added. Their eyes met, and suddenly the proximity that had been comfortable became electric. Min-jun found himself studying the curve of So-young's lips, while she noticed the gold flecks in his dark eyes. "We should," she started. "Yes, we should," he agreed, but neither moved away. The kiss was inevitable, soft at first, then desperate as months of careful distance collapsed. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. "This complicates things," So Young whispered. "Everything was already complicated," Min-jun replied, his forehead resting against hers. Chapter 7 Falling. What began as a marriage of convenience became something neither had expected. Min-jun found himself rushing home from meetings to have dinner with So Young. She started bringing coffee to his office not out of duty, but because she wanted to see his smile when he tasted her perfectly prepared Americano. They attended charity galas as a united front now, and their chemistry was obvious to everyone. Society reporters began calling them Korea's power couple, unaware that their affection was becoming beautifully real. "I never thought I could feel this way," So Young admitted one evening as they walked along the Cheonggyecheon stream. "About what?" Min-jun asked, though he suspected he knew. "About being married to you. About being married at all. I thought love was just another business contract." Min-jun stopped walking, taking her hands in his. "So Young, I need you to know something. What I feel for you now has nothing to do with our families or the companies. Even if we lost everything tomorrow, I would choose you." Her eyes filled with tears. "I love you too. I never planned to, but I do." Their second kiss, under the city lights with the stream babbling beside them, tasted like freedom. Chapter 8 The Confrontation. Armed with evidence of Lee Jae-sung's betrayal, Min-jun and So Young arranged a meeting with both families. The conference room at Park Industries was tense, decades of animosity heavy in the air. "What you're about to hear will change everything," So Young began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. They presented their findings methodically: the forged documents, the embezzled funds, the deliberate manipulation of both families. Lee Jae-sung's face grew paler with each revelation. "This is ridiculous," he blustered. "These children are trying to blame me for their father's failures." But the evidence was overwhelming. Min-jun's father stared at his former friend with dawning horror. "Jae-sung, tell me this isn't true. Tell me you didn't destroy my family for money." "And mine," Park Dong-wook added, his usually composed demeanor cracking. "You let us hate each other while you stole from both of us." Lee Jae-sung's composure finally broke. "You were both fools. Blind to opportunity, content with your small successes. I saw the potential for real wealth, real power. By betraying your closest friends." Min-jun's voice was ice. "By taking what should have been mine from the beginning," Lee screamed. "I was smarter than both your fathers, but they got the credit, the respect, the success. I just took what I deserved." The room fell silent except for Lee Jae-sung's ragged breathing. Security escorted him out as police sirens wailed in the distance. Chapter 9 Healing. The aftermath of Lee Jae-sung's arrest brought both families together for the first time in 15 years. Min-jun's father and Park Dong-wook sat in awkward silence in the hospital waiting room as Min-jun's father recovered from the heart episode the stress had triggered. "I'm sorry about your wife," Park Dong-wook said quietly. "If I had known what Jae-sung had done, if I had known she was sick." "You couldn't have known," Min-jun's father replied, looking older than his years. "We were both played by a master manipulator." So Young squeezed Min-jun's hand as they watched their father's attempt to bridge decades of pain. "Think they'll be friends again?" "I think they'll try," Min-jun said. "For us, if nothing else." The real healing began when both companies agreed to merge, creating a tech and manufacturing powerhouse that honored both family legacies. But more importantly, it created a future where Min-jun and So Young could build something together. Chapter 10 New Beginnings. 6 months after Lee Jae-sung's trial, Min-jun and So Young stood in the same penthouse where they'd established their cold marriage rules. But this time, So Young wore a simple white dress, and Min-jun had flowers. "I want to marry you again," he had said a week earlier. "Not for our families, not for business, but for us." Their second wedding was small, just family and close friends in the rooftop garden. When the officiant asked for their vows, they spoke from their hearts. "I promise to choose you every day," So Young said, tears streaming down her face. "Not because I have to," but because I want to. Because you're my partner, my best friend, and the love I never knew I was looking for. Minjun's voice was thick with emotion. I promise to love you not as a business arrangement, but as my choice, my heart, my future. We started as enemies, became allies, and now we're something I never dared dream of. We're partners in everything. As they kissed, their families cheered, and the Seoul skyline sparkled around them like a promise. Epilogue 3 years later. The nursery was painted soft yellow, suitable for the surprise they were expecting in 2 months. So-young sat in the rocking chair Minjun had insisted on assembling himself, watching him hang a mobile of tiny airplanes. Do you ever regret how we started? She asked, one hand resting on her growing belly. Minjun secured the mobile and came to kneel beside her chair. Never. If Lee Jae-sung hadn't orchestrated everything, we might never have met. Or we might have met as competitors and hated each other for real. So you're grateful to the man who tried to destroy both our families? I'm grateful for the path that led me to you, he said, kissing her temple. Even if it was twisted and painful, it brought us together. Their baby kicked, and they both laughed as So-young's stomach moved visibly. I think someone agrees, she said. Smart kid. Takes after both parents. Outside their window, Seoul hummed with life and possibility. Inside their home, their real home now, not just a showpiece, Minjun and So-young had built something neither family feud nor business arrangement could touch, a love story that began with hate and bloomed into something beautiful. The arranged marriage had ended, but their chosen marriage would last forever.